Okay, so welcome to CxXchange Success Hour. This topic today I'm super excited about. It's how to empower your CS team using Agentic AI. And we've got some fantastic CS leaders and AI leaders here today. Percy Rose, Mariena, oh no, Quintanilla? You're gonna
Quintanilla. So
Quintanilla. All right. See, I'm good with your first name though. All right. So it's co-led by Percy Rose, Mariena Quintanilla, and Shawn Stiffler. So let's jump in. I want to just uh see your faces while we're introducing ourselves, and then we'll go back to the slides. Why don't we start with you, Mariena? And then we'll do Percy and then Shawn.
Hi everyone, I'm Mariena here in Los Angeles, and I'm the founder of Melonhead. It's an AI education and consulting startup. So I work with companies to help them really train their teams. So, you're not just buying expensive licenses for Salesforce AI agents or for Microsoft Copilot, but really helping their teams understand how to leverage those tools.
Hi everyone, Percy Rose, based in Portland, Oregon. I'm head of digital CS at NVIDIA. Happy to be here.
Hello, everybody. Some familiar faces. I am Shawn Stiffler. I work at Dr. Genius for the last 10 years. We serve the SMB healthcare market, and I handle all things post-sales, implementation, onboarding, support, customer success, and account management.
Cool. All right. So digging in to the topic, I wanted to be sure that we were all on the same page just in terms of what is agentic AI. You may have heard of it, but it might still be a little elusive. Maybe like, okay, how is this different than just plain automation, and what does it really look like? So we wanted to be sure to give you some definitions as well as some examples. And then we'll also walk you through some things you can do and how to do it. So Mariena, let's
Yeah.
kick it off here.
Yeah, so you might hear the word agent, you might hear agentic AI, agentic workflows. When we're talking about agents, we're talking about conversational AI assistants that can go beyond just talking back and forth to you in sort of a read mode. They have the ability to actually do things. And so that's tasks. Think of those as skills. It might be like connecting to another system to read data. It might be using an API, for instance, to write and do an action or browse the web. So think about that as the skills it can do besides just sort of giving you back text. The second piece is planning. It has the ability to think about how do I actually accomplish this task, sort of some reasoning type capabilities you can think about. And then the third is verification, the ability to sort of validate, did I do what I was supposed to do? And if not, complete another iteration or a cycle. So for like a coding agent, it would be one that would check its code and maybe fix a bug it would find, for instance. So these sort of three things, all of these are what make it different from something like automation, where you can think about automation as a well-defined workflow, the ability for the agent to itself determine how do I want to solve this task? How should I solve this task? What, steps should I take? What of my tasks and my skills should I use? That's really the difference between an agentic AI and more of like an AI automation where you're sort of spelling it out for the AI what you need it to do.
Awesome. So, Percy, then walk us through some specific examples.
Yeah, I'm very much a learning by doing type of person. And when I took my role over at NVIDIA, I really wanted to make sure I was bringing as much knowledge as I could into the role. And so in my personal, I'm always looking for opportunities to problem solve in my personal life. And so I just like to play, right? And so in the past couple of months, I created three different, let's say, agents. One was a personal podcast generator. Essentially, you're able to just put in a topic, it goes and grabs the information, summarizes it, creates a podcast for you. Second and third is related to the dental industry. My sister is a dentist. She's always complaining to me about the problems in her practice. And I'm like, oh, there's an opportunity for me to play. Maybe I can, like she talked about how she's outsourcing a receptionist, and the receptionists are not very effective. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can create an AI receptionist, and see what that is like, right? And with this, I'm able to go through the whole process. I also did a competitive analysis agent for her, just to basically look at her practice and the other practices in the area, where it's kind of looking at sentiment analysis. It's also doing a composite score of the ratings to see what is the public perception of her dental practice. And it could be done with any dental practice. You just plug in the practice you want to compare. And so for me, I have to basically be in it to learn. And the things that I'm learning here, I'm able to bring into my everyday job. I'll give you a demo. I know we're short on time, so I'll just give you a demo of the dental receptionist. Let me share my screen really quick. Let me make sure I share with sound. 1 second. Share sound. Okay. Hopefully you see my screen.
Yep.
All right. So this is a tool called VAPI. And here's one of the assistants that my developer and I created. So it's putting
Now,
together a number
wait,
of.
before you get started, you have this tool VAPI. What does the VAPI tool do?
So you're able to basically create voice assistants. It's really specialized in creating like voice agents, right?
Oh,
For
okay.
for whether it's like a medical industry, or maybe it's even creating a voice agent for a gym or something like that. But they really specialize in voice agents.
Okay.
Um, and so they have a lot of built-in tools where you just kind of can choose, do you want to use DeepGram? Do you want to use GPT-4? Do you want to use it 11 Labs for the actual voice? And so it kind of allows you to put these things together in a more simplified way than normal. And so just to give you a demo of this assistant, I'll just do like a 1 or 2 minute demo.
Hello, this is Sarah, your AI dental receptionist at Children's Dental Group. How may I assist you today?
Hi, Sarah. How's it going with you?
Hey there, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. How can I help you today?
I'd like to book an appointment for my daughter.
I'd be glad to help with that. Is your daughter a new patient or an existing patient with us?
Oh, she's been coming to your clinic for a really long time.
Great. We look forward to seeing her back at the clinic. Are you looking to schedule a routine checkup, or is there a specific concern?
Oh, she's having some tooth pain, probably needs a root canal.
Oh no, tooth pain is never fun. Let's prioritize her appointment and get her taken care of. Our office hours are 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday.
I'll end the call just for the sake of time, but as you can see, it's a conversational thing, and you basically just it's a really nice model that they have where you just put the information, and then you can tell what style do you want. I just said be sure to be kind and funny and witty, right? And use casual phrases. And so you kind of tell the agent how you want it to act, and it really adapts itself to act like that, as well as it gives you all sorts of analytics built in. You can analyze the duration, why the reason for the call, breakdown, etc. And so I basically am able to kind of take my experience playing with this, and then in my work life, as I'm coming across challenges or things that I'm trying to solve, I take this element of what I'm doing with the voice agent and saying, oh, okay, well, I wonder if we can do it like this. And so this is an example of an agent that anyone can create, with a developer. I don't have development skills, but you just come up with an idea, and I think that's the beauty of agentic AI.
So just a few questions on that.
Yeah.
What if you wanted instead for the agentic AI, that what you were just showing,
Mhm.
what if you wanted instead to have them reach out proactively? Could you create an agent that instead is calling the list and saying, hey, we haven't seen you in a while. You
Yes.
should, create a checkup appointment.
Absolutely. I think what we plan to do is build off of this. So it will be kind of proactively checking, calling patients who haven't been there, hey, it's time for your routine checkup or something. Also to do insurance verification on the back end. Basically we can have an agent that's going to take the records from the practice software and then say, okay, let's verify this patient's insurance before they get here, so we have everything is smooth by the time they get here and there's no billing problems and so on. And so we can have an overarching agent that's going to orchestrate maybe other agents that are doing other tasks beneath it. So
Okay.
proactive calling is one that can be done.
And then, I guess the other question I have is, you said you worked with a developer,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so then how much did that cost? And how much time did that take?
Yeah. So I go on Upwork, and I like to use developers from Pakistan and India, because I found though they have pretty good skill and also are relatively cheap. This particular agent only costed me $400 to put in place, and it took him 3 weeks. And afterwards, it's taken time to test and then to refine on my side to get it to the style that I want. But it's not a heavy lift to do this type of stuff. And I think that's my biggest message today. I think many people have the perception of looking at what's happening in AI and sitting on the side and saying, what's going on out there. I think everyone should feel the autonomy to be able to go out and create things on their own. Because it's not an incredibly expensive thing to do in many cases.
So you don't need to pay someone else hundreds of dollars a month or even $50 or $20 a month. If you do one outlay of a cost, then you have your own tool that you can adjust and use for your own particular purposes.
That's what I found. Yeah.
Okay. And then were you able to adjust even like how much time, that the agent is, like it takes to respond, or how fast they speak, other
Yeah.
things like that?
Yeah. And so there's settings in the tool. For example, in this agent, I can tell it, wait until the person finishes speaking, wait a full second or second and a half. And so even with that, you may have noticed she's speaking kind of slow and, there's a delay. I can chop that down and then make sure that she's speaking quicker after the person picks up. I'm just erring on the side of caution now because I want to make sure that the agent isn't stepping over the person on the phone. Yeah, but
Awesome.
those are things that can be adjusted.
Okay. Any other questions for Percy? I was trying to hit the ones that I saw in the chat.
I was
Fran,
wondering,
yeah.
what if in your example, Percy, if the customer talks about some random thing like, did you hear on the news, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
that isn't related?
Yeah, she has guardrails, just speaking specifically about AI. And so she might make a witty comment because I've programmed her to be witty. She'll
Mhm.
make a witty comment, but I'm here to talk to you about your dental needs. How can I help you with that? So all you have to do is just set up the guardrails and it'll bring the conversation back to that.
Great. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay. And is there any middleware that you needed to use, or was it pretty much just?
And it's just the API calls that it's making. And I used he used make.com to map these things together. for the agentic flow. And then, it connects make.com with VAPI. So works pretty
Okay.
well. And so we're still playing with it. But like I say, I see this more as an investment of my learning than anything else.
All right. Trevor, you had a question?
Yeah, hey Percy, nice to see you again and everyone else here.
Okay.
Question for all of you. I wrote in the chat. When we talk about AI, sometimes I and other folks it seem like can get kind of lost when we talk about the surface level. Obviously, Percy just showed off a tool, but if any of you have any particular of your favorite tools to share, maybe not right now because we might probably not have time for it, or your favorite tools or places that you go to source tools that you like using, would be helpful as well. Because I'm like Percy, I need to be able to play around with it and kind of mess with it.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
should check out the resources in the slides. And then, of course, if folks want to mention where they're getting their news resources, I already saw some YouTube videos mentioned. And certainly in our resources, we have newsletters and things like that that are mentioned as well. All right, Fran?
I actually pressed everything in the right order. My question was actually two questions, because I felt like the voice had almost like a Southern accent. Is that something that you programmed in?
Yeah, because her clinic is in Atlanta. So
Okay. All right.
but
Yeah, 'cause I was
11
like,
Labs has thousands of voices you can choose from. So
oh, okay. So you chose the voice.
I chose the voice.
Oh, okay.
and then
That was just
programmed.
like, because I was like tripping. And the other question is, have you tried this on people and do they think it's a real person? Because if I didn't know it wasn't, I would have assumed that was a real person.
Actually, I put in the very beginning, hi, I'm your AI voice assistant, because I don't want people in the call, is this real? Is it, I just want to get it
You
clear
might
up
need to
front.
mention it again a couple of
Yeah.
times because people
Yeah.
might miss that at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though I heard it and I knew it, it still sounded like a human being. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it wouldn't surprise me if people were like,
Yeah.
right.
Interesting.
Cool.
Okay.
So Mina, let's take your question and then we've got some more slides.
So, thank you, Jen. And Percy, I might have missed this because I joined a few minutes late. So does this AI actually learn from all of this answers it's receiving? Does it modify its response? Have you programmed it like that?
Yeah, there's a capability that will require a bit more programming from my developer to do that. But I mean, it saves all the calls. It can analyze, if he programs it, it can analyze he can set up rules. What is a successful full call versus a non-successful call? And then, it could learn that way, but we just haven't set it up on the back end. Basically, what I did is I took the call transcripts, pasted in the ChatGPT. I asked ChatGPT, please analyze the call. Can you tell me, what my agent could have done better? And then that's how I did my testing. It helped me continue to refine, and give me advice on, hey, in the prompts, you might want to add this, right? So that's how I'm dealing with it right now. It's not live for my sister yet, but probably in the next couple of weeks, it will be, and we'll have kind of real patients feedback on it as well.
All right, cool. So let's just share a few more slides and continue the conversation. Mariena?
Yeah. So, if you remember when we talked about the definition of agentic AI, I just wanted to help people kind of further clarify and understand what's the difference between automation and agentic AI. So automation is where you're spelling it out sort of step by step in a workflow where you might use a large language model within that workflow, for instance, to try to understand maybe some text that was given back or to dynamically generate an email. But it's still very much a step-by-step workflow. Think of something like Zapier that you might implement. Whereas agentic AI is really about giving a set of tools, and then any number of requests can come in, and the agent themselves, or itself, I guess, has to figure out how to accomplish that. Very similar to when you work with people, right? You train someone, you walk them through how to do it, and you give them kind of direction. but then when they go through it, they sort of figure out when do they bring in which tool and in which order. So I wanted to go through some of these examples that we've heard and kind of talk about which of these might be, agents versus automation. So, feel free to put in the chat, this dental assistant we just saw the demo for, does that feel more like automation or more like agentic AI?
Thoughts? I'm gonna put it in the chat. Somebody want to say? Dental assistant. Kind of mix, mostly agentic.
Yeah. So, and I heard one automation because you might have heard Percy did say some stuff was implemented with Make. So there might have been some examples of automation that are set up in there, but kind of the way it blended together. I think definitely agentic, right? The way the voice agent has to be able to figure out sort of each thing definitely breaks down to me as an agent. What about the podcast generator?
We didn't hear a lot of details about it, but if you're thinking about how you want to bring articles together and then generate a podcast from it.
Yeah, sounds more like automation, right? I think the way most people think about it is I'm first going to, gather the research, and then I'm going to write a script, and then I'm going to generate it. Definitely probably leans more towards automation. Could definitely be implemented with tools that are agentic, where you just say this is the output and let it figure it out. So I put that it could be either way depending on the implementation.
And it might use AI like an LLM to interpret and analyze, but that's not the same as agentic, right? Because agentic is a little more independent.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
All right. The competitive analysis. So we heard about the analyzing the sort of, I think, 15-mile radius, for instance, of one for automation. Any other sort of guesses there? Yeah, either depending. Yeah, both. Okay. Jan, you want to reveal? Yes,
Yeah.
again, it could be both. So I don't know if any of you have heard of like the deep research tools. Those are definitely leaning more towards agent because you're not necessarily giving it a lot of guidance. You're letting it go out and figure out where it gets information, how it goes down step by step. So that would be more of an agentic implementation of something like this. If you're using a tool like maybe Zapier or Make to sort of tell it step by step, first go and do this, or even you yourself are doing it and you're sort of breaking down each step to put it together, it could lead more towards automation. So both ways you could accomplish it. And then last, we didn't actually hear, I think, a specific example, but I think all of us have interacted with some of the different chat bots on websites for the different tools that we use. Your company may even offer one. So I'm curious, the AI assistants for customer service, what do you guys think about those?
So the chat bot that you're talking to, what would you call that when you're on a website? Okay, some folks are thinking agentic.
Yeah, those are going to be more agentic. That being said, a lot of companies today actually aren't even using generative AI yet for their customer service. We still have a lot of companies using rules-based assistants where you only get a click, one of like 4 options. So those that are using large language models, I would definitely call that more of an agentic AI as well.
And if they are using an LLM to answer questions that is trained on their own data, what would you call that, Mariena?
Well, so using their own data, that is what we call a RAG-based implementation. That's a bit of the technical term. You're also going to hear like knowledge base. So the agentic part of it is where it is taking in the request from the customer and it's figuring out how do I respond to this and what do I do? If it's just able to read from the knowledge base, that's going to be more RAG. But if it has the ability to say cancel orders or maybe do some escalation, things like that, where it actually does have, the ability to accomplish things, that's going to be the agentic part. But yes, to answer your questions, I see this in the chat a bit. Some of these aren't using large language models at all, right? We do still have a lot of companies that aren't using anything agentic for their bots. They're very rules-based sort of legacy chat bots.
Right. And that's not a very good experience, really.
No, I don't think any of us enjoy that.
All right. So, whoops. Shawn, do you want to take us through? Because I know that you've been also digging into a lot of this for a while now. Do you want to share what you've got?
Yeah, this is about ensuring everyone's successful when we go dive into AI. So we'll kick it off with working backwards. So let's start with the end result. What do you want to have happen? Improve your SLA's response times. Maybe that's something, or some score. It could be some user experience, but just define it. And then how are you going to measure it? This may be something that's familiar to many of us, but at the same time, I see a lot of projects skip ahead of many of these steps and just go to launch, and then you have some failures. How will you test and iterate and improve? And then what's your exit strategy? So if it's not working, what does that look like? And when will you hit the end button and iterate again, or maybe move on to something else because you took aim at the wrong target? It happens all the time, but just define this before jumping in. Now, what I believe you need to start, depending on where you're at with your journey, is start with your manual workflows that are documented, compile it and understand it, and then determine what's an easy win that is very repeatable, that we likely believe we can deploy some automations against, and then AI, and I'll walk through an example here. So automate what you know, hopefully a simple, easy win. And the step here doesn't necessarily need AI at all. This could be within your CRM. This is for individuals where there's maybe no automation at all. Let's just get your feet wet with some automation and then observe how it works. And you'll discover there's some problems maybe with what was deployed, and then iterate, and you'll get used to that motion. From here, you can introduce AI into these automated workflows. We had Zapier earlier, or various off-the-shelf tools. There's tons of them where you can advance your automations a bit. Now we have agentic AI. So this can fill the gaps. You can open up these workflows to some reasoning, and if something should happen, not necessarily a strict if this, then that. There will be context involved, and you're really letting AI determine that. And so an example could be OpenAI has API integration for Salesforce.com Service Cloud, where if you so choose, you can develop an agent to reason if a case or an email is negative. So an example would be a strict automation may include if communication states, I wish to cancel, trigger all these workflows, alert all these people, assign tasks. Well, in the context, this client may be talking about wishing to cancel something else to adopt a different product of yours. So that wouldn't be negative. In fact, that would be positive. And so you will open up a level of reasoning for the AI agent to determine if this is negative or positive and what to do with it. And so you'll have the AI that determines if the client's upset in this specific example based upon context. And then they can trigger some AI automations, automated workflows, and now we're working backwards from where we started. And now we have a well-defined plan that's measurable. And that will be a short version of how to get started. But it's really important to think about, where do you want to end? Like, what's the end result? And then work backwards from there.
And what can you maybe try at the beginning just to get some results, but also then eventually you want to think about what's going to have the biggest impact, right? So
Right.
when you're first getting started, baby steps, and then thinking, a little bigger. Michaela, so great to see you. I know you've been working in this area quite a bit.
Yeah, this is an awesome session. Super interesting. I'm curious for the speakers. I'm thinking of the CS team I'm on, and wondering, what do you think about the relationship between the teammates that I'm working with and these agents? How would those folks on my team interact with these? Would these be sort of happening in the background? How do you sort of bridge the gap between the engagements they're having with customers? I'm thinking of CSMs on the day-to-day. Just curious if you have any examples there.
Oh, that's a great question. Thinking about humans and AI agents and what's that relationship like? Any thoughts?
We have some coaching capabilities. Let's say if an automated or what's what I'm looking for, a co-pilot response is incorrect, or if some action was taken that was incorrect or not ideal, there's the human in the loop sort of relationship where an agent can coach and guide. A human agent can coach and guide an AI agent. And that's just going to be based upon your deployment, if that's an internal tool that you're building or off-the-shelf tools have that capability.
Mariena?
Yeah, something else I'll throw in is that I think a lot of the agents, this technology is one of the earlier ones from a lot of the large language model stuff that we interact with. So I wouldn't go in expecting everything to be perfect and right. I think we heard from Percy in his example, right? It's an iterative process where he's updating like the system prompt, for instance, for this agent and making adjustments. So I think when you might have an agent that you're bringing into the team to work with the team for different use cases, I think going in with a culture of experimentation, right? And that you're going to iterate. So this is something that, you know, we're bringing in to help us as a team. We're going to find out like which type of task maybe it's helpful for, and some it maybe isn't quite ready for. And so I think that to me is part of how it's interacting with you as a team, is you're all together figuring out where can this help us and sharing information about what's working and kind of reevaluating it every few months as the technology changes. So I would keep that in mind. The other thing I would say is, besides Shawn's example, some of these are going to be like internal chatbots in your organization that you might interact with over Slack, maybe over Microsoft Teams. And so think, you know, if you've ever had chatbots in some of those channels, they're starting to level up now and be able to basically do more, but it's going to be kind of an iterative process as you think about what type of tasks they can do based on their planning and verification abilities and the systems you've been able to give them access to.
Any other thoughts, Percy?
Yeah, I'm a digital CS person, so it's a dangerous question to ask me, because I think I try to do everything digitally. But my philosophy is that I believe, you know, I look at the customer journey first, and, you know, starting with your onboarding and then your adoption and your, you know, optimization and so on. I feel like digital CS should be a baseline floor that offers an experience for all of your customers, not just like your low touch and so on. I think you create an approach where you look at your repeatable tasks, and then you kind of define really with an agent how it could maybe guide all customers through an entire journey. Now you're going to have a certain segment of customers that are going to be your more high touch. What you've basically done, if you created that floor now with the agent, you basically can layer more value added kind of conversations and activities for your actual CSMs to, you know, give that enhanced customer experience to your customers. And so that's how I would kind of look at, how can we create an end-to-end customer journey with an agent? And then now let's see what tasks it takes off of the team. And then what tasks can we go and do that can provide that elevated experience for our humans? So I almost see it as like 2 layers.
Awesome. So let's just take 10 minutes to go to breakout rooms. I'm going to make them on the smaller side. What we want to just talk about is some ways you can think of using agentic AI, or maybe I see in the chat there's some people who are already trying to work on some of these things. And what are the next steps you can do to learn and grow in this area as well? So I'm going to go ahead and put us over in the breakout rooms, and then we'll come back and share and go ahead and bring some other ideas in and talk with everybody when we get back. So just briefly then, with our last few minutes, what kinds of things came up in the breakout rooms, and what things could we share with the others?
I can go.
Yeah.
So I was in with Lauren and I think everyone's
And visit Michaela.
And
Yep,
me,
Michaela.
yes.
I was trying to find her on the screen. We talked about so I think we were all sort of in the same sort of realm and maturity when it comes to AI. So I think the difference of laying out automation and then agentic AI was really helpful of like what are the differences and where you sort of draw the line. So like everyone's clear on the definition. And what we felt like is we're in a point where we understand and like ChatGPT and all of the things and we know agentic AI, what the value brings. We're starting to see it like mature in a way where we're like, okay, this is at a spot where we can do kind of what Percy's doing is like, how do we kind of start to define those use cases? And then once we define those use cases, I think the next point is like, okay, how do we then implement those use cases? And it felt like, and just in our circle, it was really defining of like what those use cases are. Does it sit within our role? Do we align with our IT department? If you work for a B2B SaaS company, so we were sort of in that sort of motion where we felt like we were at the same maturity and the same step. But interested to hear if anyone else had this felt like they were in the sort of the same conversation or maybe progressed in their maturity than we were in our chat room.
I love that. I'm really curious to hear how people are feeling about that. Kind of giving you the space to respond.
I'll talk for our group if that's
Good.
all right. So it was myself, Fran, Mackenzie, and Jennifer. And Rebecca, to your point, we took a little bit what Shawn mentioned about starting like human in the loop, right? What's the end goal if the agent can't produce the desired outcome? How do we make sure that that transition is a good one? So it's not just rolling out the use cases; it's making sure that if it doesn't work in the way that we expect, how do we assure that we don't deteriorate that customer experience and making sure that we do have the right person able to take that information and say, well, you've already given us all of this stuff, this information. We already know this. Now let's move forward and not having to start over from ground zero with that within that engagement. So very similar, I think, conversation, but we looked at it from the end goal versus the actual rollout, but same ideas.
Cool. So is there another angle or questions or what kinds of things came up?
Yeah, so something that we were talking about, like in my personal experience building agents, I think just maybe because they're newer, that they're getting a lot of attention. But I am still a huge fan of AI automations. I think they are much more accurate for a lot of use cases. And there are some use cases where agents are really, really helpful. But I think for more use cases than not, just having AI automations can work really well. But with that said, if you start having like these more complex agents, let's say it's one agent, but that one agent is supposed to have access and supposed to take action in 3 different tools, and it can take 10 different types of actions in all those tools. That's a lot of work for one agent. And if you can split it up into multiple agents, that works really well. So like kind of having a delegator agent on top that's assigning work to multiple different agents below that. And then each one of those agents has its own specific set of 3 or 4 or 5 actions that it can take in different tools. I've seen some success with that, but again, a lot of refinement, still occasional errors.
And Mariena, I saw a heart there. Michaela, a hand up.
Great. I'm curious to hear what tools you've tinkered with, and I'm really trying to kind of rack my brain in terms of like in the CS workflows where like that balance between automation and agents kind of obviously if the intelligence of AI technology gets better, is that sort of the X factor of like agents being viable, since I heard accuracy was the concern, or is it more data? It's just, I'm curious, sort of a follow-up question on your comment.
Sure. So I wasn't expecting my favorite use case ended up being adding talking points to meetings. So I have I'm mainly using Airtable. I think that was Michaela that asked that question, right? By your voice?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
okay.
me.
I couldn't see you. I'm on my phone. So
Oh, no
yeah,
worries.
the main thing I'm using is Airtable, as you know. And I have my meetings coming into Airtable. And then I have a separate agent that kind of manages my calendar. But then the agent that I activate everything through voice on Telegram. So I just click one button. It opens up Telegram, starts recording. I say, hey, can you remind me to, next time I talk to Michaela, can you remind me to talk about Airtable and hopefully them implementing agents internally? And then I just hit send or enter, and it sends it off to the agent. From there, it will realize that, oh, this is a meeting reminder. So it will delegate that to my meeting reminder agent. And then that agent has 3 separate actions that it can take. Primarily, it's going to be looking for my meetings in my meeting prep app in Airtable. And then it's going to add a talking point and then link those records. So when I have that meeting with you, it's already automated in my meeting prep. I have all the research done in that meeting prep tool about you, about the company, and then I have my talking points get added right below that. That's probably weirdly my favorite use case, but there's like 4 or 5 other things that agent does.
When's your upcoming talk, Parth? Because I'd love to see it.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That was so impressive.
Let's wait until I work out the kinks, man. Like
Yeah.
I could demo it. I could demo. Anything's demo worthy. It's very easy to set up a good demo. But once I get to a point where I have a month of like no errors, then I'm gonna like be really ecstatic and tell everyone how cool this is.
Sweet.
But as of right now, I'm still. Yeah.
And Parth, are you in the Slack channel? So you can give us some updates in the CS and AI Slack channel. Let's be sure to get you in there. And Mariena, I know you have some thoughts to add to that.
Yeah, I think 2 things. One is, I think for everyone, I think just echoing what Parth said about, I wouldn't recommend sort of one generalist agent to do everything. Think of these as instead like having lots of specialists that can do one thing well. And part of that is then, you're going to have to test these agents when you bring them into the organization and understand how well they're working. And so that gives it fewer options of what it can do. So it's going to make it easier to test versus the combinations that you're going to get with a lot. And on that note, I think to me, this isn't necessarily going to improve immediately if models continue to improve. I think there's a lot of work on the platform side for how do you test these and how do you validate them. So it's a lot more than just the actual like language models or the voice models. But there's a number of things going into, I think, make it so you can actually figure out how well is this working? How do I adjust it and improve it? And how do I roll it out in the organization and keep an eye on it and monitor it, right?
Cool. All right, we've got 1 minute left. Any other burning things to share before we close up?
Okay, I have a dumb question.
Okay.
So, I'm going to pretend I'm just getting started. I know I've worked a little bit with ChatGPT and a couple other AIs, but so I'm sitting at my desk here and I want to get started trying some of the things we learned about today. What do I do? What tools do I go to? Like, give me an idea how this unfolds.
Anybody want to share?
I think we actually had a resource slide that is in the deck, and it has both like a course you can do, I think, with deep learning. A lot of these, there's no code type platforms already out there that you can play around with. Some have maybe short free trials. So I think there were 2 of them that were mentioned in there, Crew AI and was it Drift maybe? Something with a D, I want to say was the other one. But there's some links in there. So depending on your learning style, like play around with those, watch a course, like Percy, maybe even go on like Upwork and try to like build something on your own so you can play around with these and do a real world use case.
Thank you.
And there's also lots of information about courses and things like that. Shawn has been learning a lot, and he's also shared kind of what he's been learning. in this and other recent sessions that we've had. And he's just gone through and learned on his own. Whereas Percy's like, yeah, I'm not the coder, so I'm going to hire someone who's going to teach me what he's doing, but I'm going to stay just at the higher level of the vision. And then Mariena is training people at companies on a daily basis. And I think you've also shared just some other ways that we can learn and some links, right, Mariena? In the slides. Yeah. So the real point here is you can do it even if you're not a coder. There's ways you can start to work with this. And whether you're using Airtable and them adding in some agents like Parth is, or if there's some other things you might be doing, but there's ways to do it. And I have a newsletter that I'm sharing this week. If you haven't signed up, go to I'll put it in here. It's at janyoungcx.com/newsletter. I'll be talking about ways you can just get started, because you should get started, and if you haven't yet. And then we're going to continue next month when we meet again for Success Hour. Mariena and I are going to be talking about how to create slides, portfolios, and websites using Gamma. And we will continue. If Parth by May you want to come back and share and do a session around kind of what you were building, we can do that then. So that should give you enough time to get your agents working in a way that you want to see. So DM me in the Slack community, and we'll continue that conversation.
A lot of pressure, Jan, but okay.
No pressure at all, except for the pressure that Percy felt when I told him in January I wanted to do this session. So see, like it's just sharing, it's sharing your work in progress. And that's what we should all be doing, is sharing our work in progress. If there's any channel you should be in CxXchange, it is the CS and AI channel. There's lots of other channels. Definitely be in that channel. We have other channels. If you want to share your work in progress on LinkedIn, we have a LinkedIn success channel that will help people, create their voice there. Anything that you want to do, if you're not feeling the security, like I'm not sure how to get started, there's a channel for you in the CxXchange Slack. Let's not hold ourselves back. Let's dig in and make it happen.
Sounds good. I'm just kidding. But yeah,
no. I was teasing you back. I wanted everyone to encourage. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, Parth, you're part of my web now. Mariena, Percy, and Shawn all know what that's like. I never let you go. So, okay, thank you very much, and really appreciate the participation and the questions and the insights that you all shared. Thank you. We'll see you soon. Check Luma/CxXchange for the next event. We've got lots of events every month. All right. See you next time. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of Success Hour, formerly known as CS Office Hours. We regularly put out new content, so to be the first to know, like this episode, tap that notification bell, hit that subscribe button, and we look forward to seeing you soon.